The radio crackled once, then went dead, and in that sudden silence Captain Lena Rahman understood something was terribly wrong. Below her, the valley looked calm, too calm, but the last transmission still echoed in her ears. We're surrounded. 280 souls. Ammo low. The words felt heavier than gravity, pulling at her chest as her fighter jet tore through the sky. Orders had been clear. Return to base, weather closing in, no visual confirmation. But somewhere down there, 280 soldiers were waiting for help that might never come. Lena had learned early in her career that war didn't always announce itself with explosions. Sometimes it arrived quietly, disguised as procedure, as protocol, as a calm voice telling you to turn away. She tightened her grip on the controls, her knuckles white inside her gloves. The storm clouds ahead were thick and angry, rolling over the mountains like a closing fist. Fuel was already a concern. Command would never approve what she was about to do. But the faces of the ground troops, men and women she trained with, laughed with, promised to protect, rose unbidden in her mind. On the ground, Major David Hale pressed his helmet against the dirt as another round cracked overhead. The enemy had them pinned from three sides, using the ridgelines like walls in a trap. His unit had been deployed to secure a narrow pass, never expecting such a coordinated ambush. Now, dust and smoke blurred the air, and the cries of wounded soldiers mixed with shouted orders. Every attempt to break out had failed. Every call for air support had been met with static or distant assurances that help was on the way. Hale checked his watch again, knowing it meant nothing. Time had become elastic, stretching painfully between bursts of gunfire. He crawled towards Sergeant Miguel Ortiz, who was reloading with shaking hands. "How many left?" Hale asked. Ortiz didn't answer at first. Then, quietly, "Not enough." Around them, fear was a living thing, crawling under skin, whispering doubts. But no one ran. They held the line because that was what soldiers did. Above them, Lena broke radio silence. "This is Falcon 2-1. I have visual on the valley," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. The response came instantly, sharp and unmistakable. "Falcon 2-1, abort. Repeat, abort. Weather is unsafe. You are not cleared for engagement." Lena closed her eyes for half a second. She could almost see the operations room, the screens glowing, the officers weighing risks on maps. They saw numbers. She saw lives. She dipped the nose of her jet, clouds swallowing her in white turbulence. The aircraft shuddered violently, alarms flashing. Rain hammered the canopy like fists. Lena fought the controls, her breath shallow as she remembered her first flight, her instructor's voice telling her to trust her instincts. "Fly the plane," he'd said. "Don't let fear fly you." She pushed through the storm, emerging into clearer air just as the valley opened beneath her. What she saw made her stomach drop. Tracer fire stitched the ground. Enemy positions were dug in deep, nearly invisible unless you knew what to look for. Friendly smoke marked the trapped unit, a desperate signal. Lena's targeting system struggled, terrain interference scrambling readings. She had seconds to decide. One wrong strike could kill the very soldiers she was trying to save. On the ground, Hale heard a sound that didn't belong to the ambush, the distant roar of a jet engine. Heads lifted despite the danger. Someone shouted, "Air support." And for the first time in hours, hope cut through the fear like sunlight. Then the roar faded, and despair rushed back in. Hale cursed softly. He'd seen this before, aircraft forced to turn back by conditions or command. But Lena hadn't turned back. She flew lower, dangerously low, skimming the valley walls. Her jet became a target instantly, anti-air fire reaching up like claws. Warning tones screamed in her headset. She ignored them, eyes locked on the terrain. Instead of using heavy munitions, she chose precision, short, controlled bursts, striking enemy positions one by one. Each pass was a gamble, each second a dance with death. The first explosion rocked the ridge to the east. Enemy fire faltered. Cheers erupted from the ground, raw and disbelieving. Hale felt it like a surge of electricity. "She's with us," Ortiz yelled, laughter breaking through the chaos. Lena banked hard, sweat running down her spine as she lined up another pass. Fuel levels dropped alarmingly. Damage indicators flickered. She'd taken a hit. Command was shouting in her ear now, voices overlapping, orders turning into pleas. "Disengage, Falcon 2-1. You're risking the aircraft." "I know what I'm risking," Lena replied, her voice tight. "And I know what they're risking if I leave." Minutes stretched into eternity. Each strike loosened the enemy's grip, forcing them to reposition, breaking the encirclement inch by inch. The soldiers below seized every opening, pushing forward with renewed ferocity. Hale coordinated movements with a clarity born of necessity, his unit moving like a single organism. They advanced, covered, pulled back the wounded. The valley that had felt like a grave began to feel like a battlefield again, one where victory was possible. Then Lena's engine coughed. Once, twice. The jet lurched, losing power. Panic flared, sharp and cold. She checked systems, rerouting, coaxing life from damaged machinery. The storm returned, winds howling through the valley. She had maybe one pass left before she'd have to eject or crash. Below, the enemy was retreating, but not fast enough. A final push could break them completely. Lena made her choice without hesitation. She dove, ignoring the alarms, lining up the last remaining stronghold. Her hands were steady now, fear replaced by a strange calm. She released her payload and pulled up hard, the jet screaming in protest. The explosion rippled across the ridge, and the enemy line collapsed. On the ground, silence followed, heavy, stunned silence. Then the sound of cheers, of sobs, of laughter that bordered on hysteria. Hale sank to his knees, helmet slipping from his head as he looked around at his soldiers, alive, battered, but alive. Over the radio, he heard Lena's strained voice. "Ground unit, this is Falcon 2-1. Area appears clear. Get your people out. We owe you our lives," Hale replied, his voice breaking despite himself. "Every one of us." Lena didn't answer right away. She was busy wrestling the jet toward friendly airspace, fuel almost gone, systems barely holding together. When she finally spoke, her tone was softer. "Just doing my job," she said, though they both knew it wasn't true. She landed hard, sparks flying as the damaged jet skidded along the runway. Ground crews rushed toward her, faces pale with relief. As Lena climbed down from the cockpit, her legs trembled, adrenaline finally ebbing. She expected anger, reprimands, maybe worse. Instead, there was only silence, and then applause, hesitant at first, then growing until it filled the hangar. In the days that followed, reports were written, investigations launched, rules debated. Lena was grounded pending review. She spent long hours alone, replaying the mission in her mind, wondering if she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But then the letters began to arrive. Handwritten notes from soldiers she'd saved. Photos of families reunited. One message stood out, simple and direct: "Because you ignored orders, my kids still have a father." When the final decision came, it surprised many. Lena was reinstated, her actions officially recognized as exceptional under extraordinary circumstances. But titles and medals mattered less to her than the quiet understanding she carried forward, that sometimes, changing the battle forever didn't mean rewriting strategy or doctrine. Sometimes it meant one person choosing courage over comfort, humanity over hierarchy. The story of the 280 soldiers spread, retold in barracks and classrooms, not as a lesson in disobedience, but as a reminder of why they all served in the first place. War would always demand sacrifice, always test limits. But as long as there were people willing to listen to the voices beneath the static, to see beyond orders to the lives they protected, hope would never be completely surrounded.